What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Crane Kicks Lex podcast, the first one ever after our first ever USL Super League match ever. Right? So, super exciting stuff. This weekend was also featuring another first time for our UPSL squad, our U20 Academy squad. They played, got some action in the mix. There was all kinds of Lexington Sporting Club soccer going on. It was wild. Everybody got a point, which we're going to get to here soon. But first, we're going to get into some introductions. What's going on, guys? It's been a minute. Kyle, how you doing, man?
We're doing all right, Tyler. It has been a minute. So yeah, we're just summer's winding down for those of us that work in the educational system. We're ramping back up for the fall, and everyone out there listening who has kids going back to school, it's a very busy time for everyone. So it also means that fall sports are on the horizon, and temperatures were supposed to be cooling, but now it's like we're back into a heat wave. So
You know
we're
what it
kind of
also
doing.
you know what it also means though? In Lexington, traffic becomes 20% worse. And it already is like the worst thing in the world in
Yeah,
Lexington. And then
Yeah.
you add 15,000 people, just in this month, and it's just hell now.
I do like I like when you're out, during the week and you're like, isn't everyone supposed to be working? What's everyone doing out here? Like
Yeah.
I'm driving around, but I don't know what you all are up to.
It happens to me all the time in the summer. I'm like, why are there so many people at this store? And I'm like, that might be just like me. I don't know. But it's true because, I mean, you got like all the buses, people driving to and from school, fall sports starting back up. So it's just traffic becomes wild, just insane, especially like anytime you try and go downtown near any type of sporting venue. It's not a great time, but it's okay. It's okay. We're not going to get too into that because we all know it's worth it at the end of the day to go see the sport you love when we go out to our own stadium and do our thing there. But yeah, Dylan, how you doing, man?
I'm doing good. Kyle's at his parents. I'm also at my parents. It's just one of those times. You gotta bite the bullet, visit some family, and
Shout out
just
parents.
shout out to the parents. Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, like I got nothing in this room. This is my bedroom, but there's nothing here. So
You could have like
Check out
relived like the old
check
days
this
and
out.
just took a crayon and drew the LSC logo behind you, and then reminisced about what it felt like to get in trouble by your parents.
the
What do you got
only
back there, Kyle? Your green curtains?
Yeah, just some
Right?
nice curtains. We handpicked these for the guest room, my wife and I. So yeah,
Man, the people that are just listening are going to be really upset that they didn't see
I know
you
it's a bummer.
do that feature on the curtains behind you and how nice they were.
This is the only sort of like resemblance of self I have in this bedroom is just the Eagles pillow. That's like a jersey kind of thing. But yeah.
Is that supposed to be a particular players or is it just generic?
No, it's just generic
Mm.
birds. Go
I didn't
birds.
know if you were cuddling with a certain player
Oh
or not.
man.
Seemed like a Carson Wentz kind of guy.
I don't know. I'm
No,
thinking Jason Kelsey.
I mean,
Don't give him that much credit. Come on.
I love all those guys minus Carson Wentz.
That's
So
harsh.
yeah. I
Dang.
mean, I would take a bullet for like Jalen Hurts.
Oh
My
man.
life on the line or his. I'm going down. He's
Dang.
got to lead the team.
Super Bowl runner-up Jalen Hurts. That's high praise.
I mean, he put the best stats in the Super Bowl that a quarterback has ever put in. Don't get me started,
How
guys.
much
My
were they up
voice
by
is
at
already
halftime?
hoarse.
All I know is I don't think I could ever make such a statement about any Vikings quarterback ever. Like, and I know somebody will come after me and be like, "What about Fran Tarkenton?" Even still, like we're not gonna go that far.
Brett
Dylan's just
Favre,
on another level. What?
NFC
No.
Championship.
Yeah, but I'm
Good
still. I
year.
don't know that whole
Joe
thing.
Webb.
You're
Joe
like, it's gonna be
Webb.
great.
Oh my God, don't get me started on Joe Webb. I hate that guy. He beat the Eagles on a Tuesday night because there was a state of emergency
Yeah.
in Philly because of a snowstorm. And then they had to
And
play the game on a Tuesday night. And then I went to that game and Joe Webb creamed us. And I'll never forget that night ever. I hate
You
Joe
got
Webb.
Dante Culpepper. That's a good,
I
not a
will
bad,
say, I was a big
not a
Dante
bad
Culpepper
history.
guy.
Yeah.
I enjoyed him when he was there. I will say that much.
And now you
And
got
then
Sam Darnold.
Sam Darnold,
And then once
you
Jalen
know,
comes back from a catastrophic injury, you got JJ McCarthy.
science. Kyle. Science might just heal all. And then he comes back better than ever. Bionic parts and everything, thanks to the Will family. Um, and then we'll be
Yeah.
unstoppable. There's your franchise quarterback. He literally made from parts of the stadium. Has the horn, the Galler horn installed. He just like smacks the number on his chest and then immediately makes the noise and it alarms all the opponents around him. And then there we go. We run it in. It's a lock.
Yeah, I mean, that's okay. My team, we have a quarterback that threw for like less than 50% against Kentucky. So now he's our starting franchise quarterback, Anthony Richardson. Shout out.
Yeah.
He can
Couldn't
run
beat the
ball.
Wildcats.
He can run the ball.
Maybe he was just made for the NFL, Kyle. Like,
Yeah.
maybe this is just where his destiny awaited him. But then if they decide
Sure.
to take the Cats and play them in an exhibition, then he'd be in trouble. Yeah, I don't know. I can't even be that optimistic for you. Never mind. We're gonna leave that behind. Man, I'm kind of just in a whirlwind. I'm work started. You already mentioned education starting back and getting into the swing of things. I've been trying to reconfigure my library. I got all new flooring and tables and stuff, which meant I had to move every book, like 14,000 books, out of the way. And now it's finally back where it should be. And I feel so relieved. But on the bright side, I'm going to kind of take a hard right here. Last Friday was dope. Getting to go to the event after work for Lexington Sporting Club's new beer release partnership with West 6. I feel like we've been waiting forever for this ever since they announced that they were partnering with West 6 way back when Kyle was still with the club. Kyle was a part of that whole process. And, you started thinking, like, okay, are we going to get a beer? Is that going to come to fruition? Are we going to have this? And we did. Kyle, I know you couldn't make it. So you haven't picked up a 6-pack or anything, have you?
No, I haven't yet. I don't even think I've been home since then. So we've been back in
I was going to
Louisville for a
say,
few days. So I mean, I'm excited
yeah,
to try it. It is a process to do that type of partnership, and I know, especially with West 6, I know how far in advance they like to plan out their calendar. If you're in that region, you know how much of a
yeah.
giant they are in the craft beer world. So yeah, it's cool. It's the best of the best. I mean, there's plenty of other local breweries that I enjoy as well, but to have that partnership with West 6 is, yeah, it's pretty cool.
It's pretty awesome to actually have that. They're such an established brewery in the city.
Yeah.
I still remember whenever they were brand new, trying it out for the first time. There was even a little bit of a period of time where I was really into brewing my own beer. I did it regularly. It was kind of like my big hobby. Me and my buddy Jesse, we did that all the time. And so like our bathtub would be just full of bottles of beer fermenting. And we were big nerds about it, had like the books and everything. I even volunteered at West 6 to go help with like the canning process a couple times over the summer, which was interesting. It's kind of fun seeing that. And then they would like hook you up with a couple 6-packs when you were done for doing it, which was neat. So that was kind of a cool thing. And then just seeing Lexington lean into that with a local brewery that's so well established. I personally thought the beer was pretty good too. It definitely leaned on like the IPA spectrum of things, but not quite as intense as an actual IPA. It had that hoppiness and everything that you would expect, but not like so overbearing that you're like, oh man, what's happening here? Because I'm back and forth about IPAs. I feel
I
like
thought it might
everybody
be
either
more of
loves them
like
or
an
hates them.
APA, maybe like a little, just a
Yeah,
little,
yeah,
like a little bit of hop to it. Yeah, I'm excited to try
right.
it though.
Yeah, that's a good call, man. That's probably where they were kind of like floating towards. I thought it was good. I'm excited. I'm ready to have some at the stadium. I know I talked to a couple people this weekend. In fact, Kate LaSalle, who's like the treasurer for the Railbirds, she was like, I got to wait until we're actually in the stadium before I try it. It's got to be like the first one is at the stadium for the first time. And I was like, yeah, now that you mention it, I kind of wish I had done that, but I was just too excited. Dylan, what about you, man? You were there.
Yeah, I was there. I got the food truck, the grilled cheese food truck, which is awesome. I don't remember the name of it, but it's a black truck, and they make gourmet grilled cheese, and anything on their menu is fantastic. But yeah, I got a draft, and It's good. I am not like an IPA guy, and it definitely leans more into IPA. So like it's tolerable for me. Like it is enjoyable. It's a nice, clean, crisp
Yeah.
beverage for sure. I'm a big fan of Oktoberfest beers, and I really do love West Six Oktoberfest. It's up
It's
there
top
for
tier.
me for like one of my favorite beers. So I was
Yeah.
hoping it would be more in line with that. It's not, so if you're an IPA
Mm,
person, this may not be your jam, but I think it's tolerable. Like I got a 6-pack. Well, I also got a 6-pack just for the novelty, because I'm a
sure.
fan, like,
Yeah.
and I just want to have them as like mantelpieces too, so,
I
but
love it.
yeah,
Fine quality decor.
yeah, for sure. I got a 6-pack and I was gonna go tailgate the match Saturday and like crush a few, but there was that like accident outside, so we didn't get to like park
Yeah.
in time, and then by the time we got there, so I didn't get the crush brews before the match, but
Yeah.
you know
But it's okay because then, like, all the Mingos that were there at the tailgate thing would have been hustling you for one. So at
oh,
least now you don't have to share.
I wouldn't
So
have given them anything.
yeah, that was one of the most awkward like meetups between supporters groups. I wandered over there just to say hey and stuff, and hang out with some of the people that we obviously know because they go to games with us. And like, there's a lot of people from Fort Madison, and they were just kind of like lingering off in two little pods away from like the Lexington Sporting Club people, and there was no like interaction for a lot of it. There was a couple times where people kind of like worked up the courage to talk to one another, but it was kind of funny, because I think sometimes you're like feeling things out, and you're like, all right, is this okay? Is this gonna be all right if I'm like interacting and everything? But it was a good time. It was chill for the most part until we got into the match. But that's
Oh
that's
yeah.
where we gotta that's where we go from here though. We're talking already about it. Let's jump into the men's side. We got a couple other things to talk about for this weekend, but I'm just ready to talk about what we're doing in USL 1 and what we did against Ford Madison. Um, I feel, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, I feel like there's pretty good vibes going on about getting that result. Just the general sense that I've kind of picked up is it's like, okay, we got our fifth game in a row where we managed to get points. Fifth game with points, fifth game unbeaten. That's pretty big. And Madison, they were sitting at number 3. I think they still are. I think they're still sitting at 3,
They
and we
they
managed to
were
pull it off against them.
fourth. They were fourth going into the match, and then I
Okay.
think Greenville, because they lost, they
Yeah.
went up to third, or
There
Madison
you
went
go.
up to third because Greenville, Geo, if you're listening, they did not get the win. They got hammered by NoCo,
Oh my
and so
gosh.
they got 0 points on the board. And Madison actually
He's
got a
texting
point
me
in
right
their
now.
match. And so they went above Greenville again for Geo. If he's listening, they went above Greenville. So
He's
yeah,
listening.
Hey,
Oh man.
Dylan, how many points do you get if you don't win?
if you don't win,
Like
well,
if you don't win the match?
if you don't win the match, you get 0. But if you also
Oh, you
don't
get
win, you could get
0.
1. But if you,
Oh,
yeah, but like we didn't
but they got
lose,
0.
they got 0 because they
Gotcha.
lost.
So even if you draw, like most teams, like, hey, let's just draw. We'll get a point.
Yeah, points all around,
Yeah,
points
point's a
everywhere.
point.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
okay, but they got 0 is what you're saying.
yeah, because they got hammered.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'm still new to this game, so I'm just trying to figure it out. Thank
yeah.
you.
You're welcome.
Now we know. Now we're all well informed. But they got
Bracketology with
0.
Dylan.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I did math last time, so I've now shut my brain off. I do
Yeah.
have a math follow up though for later.
But no, I really like that you did math last time because ever since you tore up your math, things have been good. We decided that we were going to tear up the math, and it's like we destroyed some bad like voodoo that was
I
going
mean, I'll
on or
take a little
something.
bit of credit, but
I think it was a team effort because I mean I kind
I
of
mean, I
convinced
brought the
you,
math.
but I convinced you to tear up the math, remember, and then
It's true,
throw it
you did.
into the Kentucky River. You remember? Yeah. Well, anyway,
Yeah,
we'll all share credit.
I wouldn't
3
litter though, but
points
yes.
for all. Yeah, exactly. Well, I said that. Don't worry. You're gonna get like the National Park Service after me. I would never do that. I love
Tyler, I don't
nature.
listen to you on these podcasts. You know that, right?
Oh,
You might
yeah,
have
it's
said
true.
that. I don't listen to you.
Yeah, I just
I'm in it
talk
for
to you and
me. I'm in
myself.
it for the clout.
the clout and the money.
Unbelievable. And the money.
Don't forget all the money. We got both of those. But I mean, look, this game, I don't know if it was just the vibes in the stands. Kyle, I wish you could have been there, man. Like the vibes were insane throughout the whole stadium. And I honestly, I hate to give credit to the flock, but I think it's because they were there and they were so obnoxious and annoyed people so terribly that even like just nonchalant fans that might have been there for the first time, they were like, no, 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 no. We're going to like start doing these cheers with all the other fans that are trying to drown them out. And it worked. And it was glorious. It was hilarious because my wife, she always goes with me. And usually, you know, she's like into the game, she's watching, but she's like kind of laid back about it all. And this time, every time the Mingos would chant, because they were behind us, they were like up a few rows, sitting behind Isaac Cano's family. Funny enough, which I love the energy they brought. I'll get into that later. But, you know, Tasha, she was just chanting back at them, talking back at them every time that they would make a comment. And I don't often see that side of her because she's a very like nice, chill person. And I was just like, this is great. I love you so much.
Well, one of the things, you know, when I worked for the club, we were trying to bring along some of these supporter groups in the sense of like we had some passionate fans who wanted to be everything that they thought a supporter should be, right? But it's like sometimes you almost have to see it or experience it to see kind of how, like, first of all, in League One, like how some of the best, you know, some of the others do it, right? And Fort Madison was always kind of the one you could look at and be like, they have a great atmosphere. So it's kind of good to have a little bit of that because then you start seeing like, this is what it's going to take to, you know, this is what it's going to take to compete type of thing, right? Like if like an athlete would say, but it's like for a supporter, it's like, this is what, you know, we thought about like, let's just go up the road to Cincinnati, you know, for an FC Cincinnati match and like just experience it because, you know, you kind of have this idea in your mind of like what you think it should be, but then you see it in action and it's cool. And like, so I think it's a good thing all around, you know, to kind of see what maybe the top of the League One, so to speak, would, you know, does on a regular basis. And then like what, you know, how you kind of improve and match their energy.
Yeah, and it's hard too for like, I mean, I'm sure you know, like as a club, when you work for the club to instill that into fans and be like, hey, you all like get energized
Try
and you
like
try, but people are awkward about it, right? And
well
that's what was so funny is because like that organicness of like them being
it's
there.
got to be organic.
Yes. And it totally was. I mean,
Because
because
part of it too is like with it, you know, I was in drumline in high school. Okay. I was the nerd on the sides that played
with Nick
drums. I
Cannon.
didn't play football. Right. Nick Cannon, yeah, very much less cool, less swag and all that, but way fewer kids than him too.
Yeah,
But
I was gonna say.
I was about to make that joke if you guys didn't.
Maybe like 11 fewer kids. I actually don't know how many kids he has, but like I feel like sometimes we have a little like timid, you know, drum line going on at the matches where I'm just like last year I just want to be like, we got these drums for a reason, right? Like bang the shit out of those drums. You know what I mean? Like let's make some noise. And but I get it. It's like if you're not used to it and you're a little bit, you know, trying to feel it out. So I think it's good to have that type of atmosphere in the stadium too, because then it's like one thing that we'll never do is lose, you know, a toe-to-toe battle, right? Like, oh, you're gonna raise the energy. Well, we can match that. Like, we know how to do that. You know what I mean? Like, we've tailgated for UK. You know, whatever. You're a Louisville fan. You've done that. So if you're in the region, like, we know how to cheer for our teams. We just maybe still need to learn a little bit more about kind of how the soccer works in terms of the supporter group in the match. You know what I mean? So I think but once that intensity level's raised, I think our fans are ready to go. You know, it's someone's got to either break the ice or organically make it happen, like you mentioned. So yeah,
100%.
I mean that's cool to hear. And I will say though, I was working Saturday night. I wouldn't just like I would have been there, but I was actually at the Racing Louisville match. So I was scouting.
Double agent over here.
Yeah, I was scouting
for us. Double agent for us.
Yes.
Yes,
correct.
But Tyler, you really said it best. Like this match was intense. Like, and I don't know if the field bled into the stands or the stands bled into the field because like it was just so intense. And I mean, you guys could hear it in my voice. I am hoarse because I
Yeah.
was a menace on
Mhm.
Saturday. Like, I did not want those fans to like have it, like this is
Yeah.
our house. Protect our house, you gotta
Yes.
defend it.
And it was so great because like I had fans sitting near me that I'd never seen before, and at first they weren't really getting into it, and then as the match was going, they were stomping with us when we were doing the stomping thing, and then they wouldn't like really be super vocal, but they would at least do that type of stuff, which was cool, because they might have been there before. I don't know. I just hadn't seen them, but it was neat to see them in there doing that. And I gotta give Isaac's family so many props. Like they bring the energy and the noise, and it's hilarious. Whenever Madison's fans were chanting their little like forward, forward, they were just chanting over top of them, going backward, backward. And it was right whenever they would lose the ball or something, and then immediately the flock would just stop talking. Like they would just go dead silent. And then they would do that horrible, horrible, stupid flamingo noise. And after the match, Isaac's family was taunting them, doing the little mine, 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 mine from Nemo at them. And I was like, I love you all so much. Like, can we please just go ahead and sign Isaac? He's a great player, but I also just want his family. I want his family to be there. And they're just cool. And they always bring that energy. And it's cool because that's what you need. You need people willing to do that. And, they have the benefit of they come in a pack, like they're ready to come support him, which is awesome. And so they're all like ready to go. And they're like, okay, let's start stomping. And then everybody will get into it. And, sometimes when people come by themselves or just as a pair, they get a little shy about it, but that stuff will grow. And I think this was a match that showed just what Kyle said. You can get there. We know how to do it. We have all these other sporting traditions in our city. And so we just need a little bit of a little inspiration, a little push. And sometimes that push comes from another team getting us to go there, but it was good. So maybe let's get into some of the X's and O's of the match. We don't have to get too deep into stats and stuff. 0-0 draw. Overall, I'd say a positive result considering, right?
Yeah,
Like
I
everything
mean,
in there.
we got points at home against a topside team. I think overall that's a positive spin on the draw, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And I feel like it wasn't a boring match either. You know what I mean?
No,
Like sometimes you see those 0-0
hon-
draws and people are just kind of meandering around the field and you're like, what's happening? This wasn't that. This was a
honestly,
battle.
this might have been the best LSC match, like for the men's side. Honestly, like watching this match, in person, man, there was a lot of really good stuff, both sides, like really,
Hmm.
really quality match overall. And like, it's hard to say that when the score line is 0-0, but this match really had so many things about it, right, that made it that good. And I brought a friend with me who he came with me to the Tormenta match that got rained out. We had the lightning delay, and then
Yeah.
like we got blown out. So like his, he kind of had like a skewed view of everything. But
Hmm.
we walked out, and he was like, "Man, that was really good. This was really
Yeah.
good soccer." And I was like, "Yeah, man. Like this is it. Like this is what we can do. Like right here."
I mean, it really was. It had so much energy, so much back and forth. There were battles all over the field. Um, and I know that we had talked about this in text, but I absolutely love probably one of my favorite things about this match was the way that Yannick Yankum made Devin Boyce look like a silly little boy the whole time.
I didn't
I
have I don't have many notes for the pod today because of like I'm out, but I wrote my moment of magic. I don't know if we're gonna make this a
Mhm.
segment or not, but my moment of magic was Yannick, and when he
Yes.
nutmegged Devin Boyce, who
Oh man.
deserved
Oh
every
yeah.
bit of it.
He was doing his whole shtick this match too, just like he does in every other match, where like he pretends to fall down like something horrible is happening, and then as he's getting up, he'll like lean towards one of our players and act like he's being like just accosted. And it's like, dude, stop. Just
It's just so ridiculous. He is such a joke. Like I can't stand him and Cheney. Cheney is the dirtiest player I've ever seen. Like these guys, like how do you even root for this team? Like, I don't
Yeah.
understand like how you could be like, oh yeah, Devin Boyce, that guy's terrible. That guy's
Yeah.
a joke. Like, what the hell?
Yeah, I don't know. He's just one of those really solid villains. I'm not gonna lie. Like, I know we've had our share of people that we've been like, okay, this is our guy, that's our villain. But he's one that's just like very unlikable. Like overall, it's not even like, oh man, he got a point against us because he had like a crazy goal or anything like that. It's just, I don't know. It's just vibes are bad. Vibes are bad. I don't know.
Vibes are bad.
Yeah.
I will say I was watching on my phone because I was, like I said, at the Racing Louisville match, which it was actually a nice match. Louisville won 3-1, so congrats to them and to anyone else who bet on them, and for other people who bet on the other team. Then the night wasn't quite as fun, but
No.
for those people, whoever they are, just
Whoever.
hypothetically, watching on my phone though, it was like it was one of those. I grew up playing baseball, and so you see some of those, like they call them like the pitchers duels, right? Where it's like 1-0 or 2-1. You're like, well, that was a boring game, but they're not all created the same. So some of them are like, they're pretty action packed, but you know, it just so happened that there were no goals scored. So
Yeah.
to me, if we're doing the magic moment, the magic moment of the match, however you want to brand it, I mean, Amal Knight, our guy, right? Like at the end, they're just
That
putting
double
the team on
save.
his
Yeah.
back, dude. Putting the team on
So
his
much.
back. Just a
Truly.
freaking legend. I mean, it was one of those, like, obviously being a man up, which I know we'll get to,
Yeah.
was you don't want to be in that situation where you kind of need that kind of goalkeeping to keep you in it.
Right.
But I mean, that's why he's there. Like, that's why
His
he's the
his
freaking man.
diving saves too, like, we're talking about the double save, but like
Yeah.
the other ones, diving saves,
Just
just
going.
crazy. Yeah.
He was on fire. Like, dude was playing like a
Yeah.
championship goalkeeper.
And,
You know?
and like he was, yeah, exactly, which is another, item we might get to later. But it's like to see such an improvement too from like his year one to year two in our system where
Mhm.
he went from 29 to 30. It's not like he was like a 20-year-old to 21, but it's a familiarity. Like, I think it's all the things that are baked into being in the first season versus the second season. But it seems like so much more, like you feel so much more confident with him between the
Yeah.
sticks.
I think
Even
he
last year, like, I mean, there were how many weeks last year where he was up for save of the week, right? Like he had those
He won
spectacular
it, what,
plays,
8 times?
right? He had
Yeah.
spectacular plays, but there was a lot of the letdown too, where it's like, how did
Mhm.
Mel Knight not get that? But I
Yeah.
feel like this year it's been much more solid, where I think his floor has risen so much more, just
Mhm.
becoming more of a, the captain type role on the team. It's kind of risen his consistency even more, and he's still got those highlight plays like we saw.
yeah,
He's
I
had a lot of
couldn't
swagger.
I
Yeah,
couldn't agree with you guys more. Like he is playing better than he did last year, which is already like crazy.
right.
Mhm.
And I feel like he just has more confidence in himself. And I
Yeah.
think
Exactly.
that's like propelling him
Yeah.
to play this way. And I noticed too a lot in the interviews that you're doing, Tyler, he always
Mhm.
credits his coach, his
Yep.
goalkeeping coach, which is
Yep.
fantastic. And I do notice that like
Yeah.
the coaching has helped him too. Like, and
Mhm.
that's fantastic to hear that like a player's actually listening and learning and like growing.
Mhm.
And like that's what we want. We want more players to be like Amal. Like he's a
Yeah.
great example. He embodies this club. I love the guy. He's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. Has
Well, and
everything.
and he's so cool too. Like just like cool as in like
Yes.
that's what you want from your keeper. Like nothing. So
Mhm.
I showed up. I was at the match. I was taking photos during the penalty kick of the match against One Knox, whenever the last Jaeger Cup was, right?
Yeah.
And I hadn't seen them all, I don't know, in months. And I'm over there in between like the second and third. It was before he'd saved the one that he saved that ended up being the decisive save for the shootout. He just comes over, hey Kyle, how's it going? And like this is the middle of like the other, like we're about to shoot the other teams, and I'm just like, hey man, like I'm doing all right. And like human nature, I'm like, how are you? And I'm like, you idiot, like he's in the middle
Yeah.
of a game, like don't ask him that. It's like when you ask the person you buy the tickets from the movie, like, yeah, enjoy your movie, yeah, you too. Like I don't know, I just kind of froze. So like, but he's just got that like calmness about him all the
Yeah.
time, no matter what. Like
Yes.
he doesn't get too high or too low.
Yeah.
So yeah, he's just been fantastic, I think, for a lot of reasons too, not just from the highlight standpoint, but really just from the consistency has even been more impressive.
100% agree. He had a great game. We had a lot of people that played really, really well. You know, we already mentioned Yannick. Yannick was cooking. There was like 4 different times where there was 3 players on him, and somehow he dribbled his way out of it, and found space again. Dude is so technical. Like it's wild. You know, and I've mentioned it in like a write up or a post, that he's just on a roll with these amazing chances that he's creating. Like, right, he's got 3 assists in the last like 5 or 6 games. He's consistently sending balls where they need to be and towards the box in the final third, making stuff happen. It's been really awesome to see that type of stuff. And for as kind of like a flashy a player as he is, I feel like he's kind of flown under the radar a little bit with people. But I don't know if that's just because we're like so hungry for goals and so hungry to not be scored on that's what everybody's focus is like, okay, that's the goal. Okay, that's the save. And they kind of miss what's happening in the middle a little bit, but he's been really great for us.
Yeah, his passes have been really insane, and I don't even think the nutmeg on Boyce was his first one in that match. Like,
No,
I'm pretty sure he had
he posted
multiple.
highlights earlier with like, I think 2 other ones.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm very thankful that we get to have him on the squad, and
Yeah.
he's definitely like a must. We absolutely need him in the lineup
Hmm.
every game because he's consistent, which is very
Yeah.
much appreciated. I really value his passing effort. It's really crazy, like, how accurate his long balls can be too. Like, he'll be in the
Yeah.
middle of the field and he'll see, Chris or Nico out on the wings, and he'll just send a flyer over to him and then, right on them, like
Yeah.
it was nothing to him. It's crazy.
Yeah, I think there was that kind of like he had his international duty like experience, and then kind of had that injury too that I feel like nobody really knew about. It was reported, but then
Yeah.
you saw on his Instagram like, oh, he's actually like dealing with something here, and then he came
Yeah.
back. So there was that kind of period of the season where he kind of went away from the front of mind, and then now it's like he kind of snuck his way back in, and you start realizing
Hmm.
again like how special he can be. So yeah, I mean it's everything like Dylan just said too. It's that connective piece I think as well
Right.
where since our midfield has been so kind of fluid, I guess
Yeah.
having someone like Yannick in there has been fantastic. And again, it kind of goes back to that consistency that the last few matches where we're kind of building up toward these good results. Now you start to see the fruits of that labor, and I think he's a big part of it.
Absolutely, man. And while we're on the topic of like players that maybe made an impact, we got a new player like announced on Friday and then appearing in the match on Saturday. So Cameron Lacey's joining us on loan from San Antonio. And I'll try and put out a write up at some point about him. But I mean, we can still kind of chat about what we saw. He wasn't in the match for very long. Definitely appeared like he was similar to Azad, though, in my eyes, as far as being like a pressing forward. We just put them up there, 2 striker system, and they were both just like pressing the heck out of the back line for Forward Madison. So super aggressive style. I don't know. Do you guys have any first impressions from that short little window of time that we got to see Cameron out on the field?
Man, he impressed me for sure. I think he's due, like, to get a goal, like, for sure. Like, I think just as soon as he got the ball and he took it to the house, and he almost got a goal. Like, he ripped
Yeah.
that shot, and like everyone was like, "Oh my god!" Everyone thought it went in. It, like,
Yeah.
It was awesome. Like just thinking
yeah,
about the storylines for that. Yeah.
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 I think my only concern about him from what I saw was I think he just chills off sides way too much. Like, I think
Mhm.
he'll get caught, he'll get called for that a ton, because when I'm watching the line, he's off all the time. So I would just, I worry about that being a consistent thing. But in terms of like a striker, man, he's good. And I would like to see him out on the field more. Like, you know, is he going to be the starter over Cameron, or is it Cameron and then we bring in him, but then we have Azad? I don't know. It's just we have a lot of people on our team, and these questions keep getting brought up. Like, where
Well,
does everyone fit?
And I'm, I wonder how much he was in the Orlando City kind of youth system, right? So like,
Yeah.
was there some overlap there with Darren? Like, I don't know. I mean, I'm honestly curious. I just don't
Yeah.
know if you've done any research on that, Tyler, but it
I haven't
seems
gotten
like
that far. I've done a lot
from
of research into his
Miami,
game.
did some of the Orlando City stuff. I just feel
Mhm.
like that's kind of the Darren Powell MO at this point. Like, you know,
Right.
but well, better or worse. It's just, yeah, I think it remains to be seen, but just having some more um, options and a little bit more bite in the attack, I think is a good thing. I don't see Lancaster, losing his starting
No.
role, to be honest.
Yeah.
I think there's matches where he probably was in there
Mhm.
a little bit longer than we would have liked. But I think for the minutes that he's in there, being that kind of poaching striker, which he's kind of turned into, in this later stage of his career, which is, very opportunistic and for a lot of times for us, a good thing. But yeah, I think to me, he's still got that position locked down, but it'd be interesting to see how Lacey works in.
I
Yeah.
just get concerned because I personally don't like when we sub off Artez, especially in like
Right.
a game where we're not winning,
Mhm.
right? And taking off Artez, I think, is so not smart to the whole as a team, right? Like Artez is like a really vital role in our lineup, right? He moves the ball insanely well. He's not afraid to shoot the ball, and then we take him off, and I think we lose a little bit, and then we're putting on someone, we're putting on Azad and Lacey, who are very similar. I just think we
Yeah.
got to be smarter with these things. Like, there's a lot of really good talent. I just really feel like the pieces haven't finally been put together just
To,
yet.
well, to me, I'm like, I'm an Anthony Davis fan, right? Went to UK
Mhm.
my senior year. He was awesome, whatever. If you watch Anthony Davis in the NBA, he falls down like 12 times a game, right? And every time he falls down, you're like, that's it. His career's over. Like he's done. And then he pops back up and he's fine. I'll tell you, like Attest is on the pitch a lot. Like he's this very
Yeah.
small person, very slight build, and just like looking at, I mean, he's been subbed off now 2 matches in a row. It starts making you think like, is he kind of banged up a little bit? I mean, especially in that Fuego match coming off so early,
Mhm.
right? And I don't want to like speculate about anything, but he has been so important that you're like, if he's being pulled off the pitch, I wonder if there is something lingering. Maybe I have no idea. I'm just
Yeah.
for a guy who, I mean, credit to him too, because I'm not even saying he dives a lot because we've seen teams that dive and players that dive.
Yeah.
He's just very small. I mean, he can't be 100, 110 pounds, right? Like he's a very small dude, slight guy. So like, I just wonder, is there something where they're kind of trying to manage those minutes at all? I have no idea. I'm just, the fact that he's been subbed off twice, you start kind of like scratching your chin a little bit, like what's going on here? Because you're right, Dylan. He's
Yeah.
like, he's kind of the linchpin, I think, of the whole operation.
Yeah, I know.
I will say, like, his work rate has been insane. If you've
Yeah,
noticed, like every game, he's one of our players. Like, there's not just him. There's plenty of players out there doing this that are just going, 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 and he is chasing down players for that ball, pressing, getting up in people's faces, trying to get the ball, trying to work through all kinds of traffic. So his work rate is so high that even if there's not any type of lingering injuries, it could just be like, managing him so that way he doesn't push it to that point. You know what I mean?
true.
Where he
We got
wants
to
it so bad.
we got to talk to Ian Cossack, the strength conditioning. I need the stat sports. How they all wear those kind of like
Yeah.
monitors, right? Like
Yeah.
distance travel, heart rate, all that. Because you're right, like his would be up there for sure,
Yeah.
more so than a lot of forwards. Because I think he does a lot more of that work on the defensive side of things too.
Absolutely. So he's been like you guys said, he's essential, right? Um, but no matter what changes we made, right? It ends up that we still hang on, get a point. I saw like at least, I don't know, 5 shots down on my end where I sit that went just to the right of goal, and every single one would have beat the keeper, every single one, if it had just been something like 6 inches further towards the net, which, you know, Fair play. You gotta finish that type of stuff. But oh my gosh, I feel like we had some phenomenal chances. Not that they didn't either. I think ours was more we needed to be on target, where theirs was more they needed them all night, not to be them all night. And but it's okay. So thinking about the last little bit of the match, you know how we do it. When we get questions, we tend to address them as they kind of come up in the conversation. I feel like this is a good point to kind of bring up something that was asked of us. So we had a fan ask about that last like 15-ish minutes or so that we were working being up a man, right? So I believe it was Cicero that ends up doing that insane tackle on Kalen, trying to completely decimate his legs instead of go after the ball. About as reckless as you could think, which is so weird to me that Citro was just like sitting on the field for like 10 minutes. I don't know if he was like arguing about it or what the situation was. Maybe he was being a good sport and making sure Kalen was okay, but I don't think so based on how slowly he walked off the pitch. It was reckless and it was a deserved red. So we end up being up a man for the remainder of the match. And you kind of think, okay, maybe this is the thing that's going to let us finally break through, right? So we had somebody ask what we think is happening mentally with coaching staff and the team in general when we're on our heels and defending way more than you'd expect in the last 15 after Madison's red card. Lack of subs during that time didn't show much urgency either. So essentially, I guess the question is why does it seem like we had trouble making Madison feel our presence when we were up a man? That's kind of how I'm interpreting that question.
Yeah, as you guys know, I've been a big critic of the subs this season. Like I haven't really understood them, whether it's the timing of them or the personnel we're switching in and out. Like I've not been kind of a fan of the decisions that have been made in terms of the subs so far. So I honestly, I don't know. I sit very close to the bench, so I get to see when Powell goes over and, get this guy, I'm going to bring this guy in. He wanted to bring on Tate, which I thought would have been really awesome because we needed some free kick energy. We needed some better, chances for our free kicks. I thought that would have been really awesome. I'm not really sure what's going on in that world. I can't answer that. There's still concerns, not just the subs that I have. Like there's still a lot of question marks to me about this team. The run of form is fantastic. We're getting points, right? We haven't lost a game, in 5 matches, right? We're unbeaten.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But we have to win games in order to get to the playoffs, in order to be a top tier team. If we're not putting our foot on the gas when there's a team down a man, that's kind of a bigger concern to me of like what the whole season can look like. We got to make sure that we're putting guys in the positions to get the ball in the net. And when they're down a guy, we should be doing that. We should definitely be pressing more and, we should be putting it on them, but we're just not. I don't understand what it is. I don't know if Kyle or Tyler, do you guys have anything? Like, do you have any ideas?
I mean, I feel like we were pressing because when we put in AZ and then we've got Cameron Lacey in, but I think that stretched us a little bit more the way we did it because, like you said, Otis coming out and then Lacey coming in, we ended up having 2 strikers that are kind of doing the same thing. They're putting the pressure on that back line, which I think in a coach's mind, you're considering, okay, they're down to 10. It's 0-0. Maybe they're just going to decide to sit back and hang on to a point because they want to stay where they're at. And so maybe mentally that's where you're going with it is like, they're not going to try and, press us. So let's press them and put the pressure on them. But then of course you end up stretching yourself. And then it's been, 80 minutes and everybody's legs are starting to get a little bit tired, especially out of our defense. We brought this up before, coaches don't like doing a lot of changes in the defense. Like I totally get that because you want to keep that kind of that cohesion that you've built throughout the match. But at the same time, Madison proved that they weren't willing to just sit back and absorb whatever we were throwing at them and hang on to that one point. They kind of made it the opposite. They tried to put us in those shoes. I don't think we really fell as much into the trap as we have in the past. I feel like we were still like, hey, let's get this up there and try and let, Lacey do his thing. There's a couple times where Lacey's running up and then Nico's coming up his side and he tries to do that little fancy back heel, but Nico just wasn't there because they're still developing chemistry. They're new to each other, right? You got AZ still pushing, people kind of following up with him. I just think that Madison wasn't willing to kind of roll over and die. And I think that it kind of like came back to get us a little bit. Maybe if we had played a little bit more the same style that we did the rest of the match, they wouldn't have gotten as many opportunities, but I don't know that we would have either. So I think that one was a little bit of a tricky one because I feel like past games, I definitely agree. We've tried to just be like, let's hang back and see what happens. And I don't know that I saw as much of that this time, which is encouraging. But yeah, I don't know.
I want to clarify. When I mean press, I don't mean like the press on the field. I mean press as like we need to move forward and like just press on. That's kind of what I was saying.
Gotcha.
I have 2 points on this that I think could maybe help the conversation a little bit, at least from my, like in terms of an argument on my side. So this, I mean, it's pretty common to see football clubs go down a man, right? Like it's also common enough to see that really not. Now, if your argument is that the approach doesn't change, then I don't have an argument against that. But when it comes to the result, like it's common enough to see a team go down a man and still hang in the match, right? Like we're talking about the field's 100 plus yards long, it's 70 plus whatever yards wide. Like it's harder, I think, than a lot of people. It's not like a man up in hockey when when you have that type of advantage. So it does mean that you really need to kind of buckle down on that's why you see a lot of the soccer teams training on the 4v3, 3v2, 2v1, like doing those kind of wave games and training, because it's really about creating these mismatches in small spaces that lead to big spaces, right? Like you're never thinking in your mind like, okay, now we're 11 on 10. It's more like, okay, in this space now we're 4v3, or this space we can create a 3v2 and kind of go from there. I was looking at, because I was curious to see, like, I took literally the smallest sample I could find. I was going to the MLS this past weekend. I was like, how many red cards were there? There were 4 red cards this past weekend in this one day of matches in MLS. 3 of the clubs that had red cards scored after going a man down. And only one of them actually ended up losing the match. So, I mean, it's like when you think about teams that go down a man, it doesn't necessarily mean you have to change wholesale your approach. But I will say that when you go up a man, especially when it's your club, you really expect that club to kind of intensify the pressure a little bit, because it's just a math game at that point. So that's my first point. My first point is that I don't think it's completely like uncommon to see. Now, I will say I even text you all like, can we just start declining red cards? Because I really think I think sometimes we're like, all of a sudden we start looking like we're worse somehow. But but I also think that Darren, I think, is a listener of the show because he heard my math breakdown. My math breakdown was that we needed 2 points per match. We got 3 the last match. So in his mind, he's thinking, hey, Kyle said we only need 2 per match. We got 3 last match. We only need to draw this one, right? So, like, what do we need to do to draw this match? I don't know. I mean, it's a possibility. That's all I'm saying.
We tore up the math, though.
Oh, shoot, I did. I forgot about that. I tore up the math.
So it doesn't even matter. But, I mean, fair points all around. Hopefully we can see us continue to adapt in those situations and not suffer so many of those same situations we did earlier in the season and those final like 15, 20 minutes where it just seems like all of a sudden momentum changes on us. And then we're like, wait a second, or how do we hang on? And we're just sitting there and letting people just take 15 shots at a Maul and making him become Superman to finish things out. So overall, I don't think this one was as bad as maybe we might have felt some of the other ones in the past are, but totally get the points. You hope once you get those man advantages, you're going to come out on top. But we had phenomenal performances, especially from them all, kind of locking things down. We did have some good movement from the crew to make sure that they didn't score, and we kind of kept them honest on the field. So it wasn't so bad. I don't know. This might be a solid segue. Before we start talking about the women's team, I did have a follow-up question from the same person, just about the championship. So I don't know how you guys feel about this. So he was asking us who we thought was currently on our roster that we felt could go up to the championship with us, who could have the chops to hang and continue on into that. So I don't know. I don't know how you guys feel. I feel like I could make an argument for a whole lot of players. Maybe how do you guys feel about doing just one each? No
Well,
repeats?
I was going to say theoretically everyone, right? Because
Yeah.
that's how the roster
Yeah.
was supposed to be constructed.
Mhm. Mhm. All right. So
Yeah, I
you
mean,
guys okay
yeah,
with?
we could do one each. We could do a little like round robin and pick. Yeah, yeah, that's
Okay.
fine.
We can do round robin.
Make
I'm okay with
make
that.
it or do like a a little draft like one way and then back the other way snake style or
Make
something.
it.
Pick
Yeah.
6 players. I don't know. I'm just thinking
Yeah.
out loud.
Let's go for it. Okay. Let's see. Who wants to go first?
I'll
Dylan?
go. I'll pick Yannick.
Yannick. Okay. Kyle.
Kyle.
I mean,
Kyle,
that
you
no,
know.
that's solid. Yannick, I think, would have been on anyone's top, first round. I think you just talk about the class and the. I mean, I'm making your argument for you. So if you
Yeah, I
want to
know.
argue on his behalf, go
No,
for
I'm
it.
all
But
right. I think he does
you're good,
enough of the arguing for me. You know.
right? No, that's a good point. I mean, to me, I think it's Artest. I mean, I obviously came from the championship program, right? Coming from San Antonio,
Mhm.
and I think is at that point where he's ready to make that next step up in terms of competition. I mean, God, the fact that I mentioned it earlier, I'd love for him to hit the weight room for a little bit. Just, I mean, I think from a
Yeah.
durability standpoint, but yeah, my pick would be Artest for sure.
That's solid. I mean, leading goal scorer in our history. Not only that, but even if you divide it season by season, he's still top.
In our
Um,
whole history, crazy,
yeah, yeah, in our
Tyler, you
whole
get
history.
the whole
Always,
thing, yeah, all the way
yeah,
back to the.
forever.
Tyler,
All right,
you get 2 picks.
two. Okay, we got to do this. All right,
Let's
Amal's
sneak
my
him.
first one. Amal's my
Yeah,
first one. I feel like
that
we already talked about how he's elevated his game so much. I don't think he's playing around. I think that
no,
he, took it very seriously this offseason to keep improving, to keep working, and I think he's still doing that. I don't think he's settling. He's not the
it's a
type
great
of dude
point.
that's going to settle. He's
Agreed.
always going to keep learning and changing. He's such a humble dude that he doesn't let his ego overtake the need for him to do something different. And I think that
Absolutely.
he's like, I'm going to make it up to the championship because I'm going to prove that I'm going to evolve and keep going. So I think he deserves that call up to it. Let's see. Two, I feel like, okay. Number two. This is a toughie. Oh man, why did I make myself go last? This is a tricksy one. You know, man, oh man, oh man. I'm gonna say I want Nico to get a shot. I'm gonna say
There you
Nico.
go.
That might be a little bit of a fanboy call out, but I do feel like when we're talking about players that work insanely hard, all the players work hard. But I mean, when we're saying after games, like I'll go up to shake Nico's hand. He's like, "Dude, I don't know if you want to. I'm so sweaty," because he's just constantly going. His motor just doesn't quit, and I think that he's another player that has that humble nature that propels him. And he knows I need to keep doing things different and better each time to evolve into my final form, like the ultimate Nico Brown. So I think he deserves a shot.
Man, I want to say this real quick. Nico, I know he's a fan favorite. He's a big favorite on this pod, but I still feel like he's very, very underrated, right? Like
Yes.
I still feel like we, even as a team, underutilize him. I feel like if we need to get him the ball more because he's very dangerous. His speed is impeccable, right? He can break away so easily. We need to get him the ball way more. That's just my opinion. I'm a big fan of Nico Brown. Great pick. Kyle, who is your second pick?
So I'm kind of between. There are a couple guys to me that are like popping out from like a if we were to make the move tomorrow, which I mean, that's almost the case because it's next season. There are two guys to me that are very obvious, but I think in the spirit of the draft and in the spirit of the question, it was about who might be able to kind of take the next step up into that category. And I'm going to go with Modesto. I think he's had a very I don't know if quiet's the right word, but like a very solid season where there were obviously some questions going into the season about that back line. There were questions even throughout the first maybe third of the season, how that back line was going to shape up. Had some new folks brought in. Some of those folks have already left. There's been some injuries, but to me, he's just kind of been he's putting together a resume that's very impressive in terms of just consistency, which I feel like that's the word of the podcast for me. I feel like I've said it a bunch, but to me, that's, you start stacking those results up over time. His performances has been fantastic. Yeah, there were two guys that I'm like, I want on the team, but I think in the spirit of the question, it was who might take that next step. And he's got the pedigree, perfect age to he's reaching that peak of his career. So yeah, I would say Modesto.
So for my I guess this is my final one. We're just doing two each, right?
Yeah.
My final one.
Sure.
Who
we just picked the whole team.
Yeah, really. Who also I feel like could have been a 1-1 pick also is Abel Caputo, like for sure. The man is just a stud. Absolutely. Like he is the water carrier for this team. He is the spine. Like he really holds it all together. He makes the hard tackles. He gets interceptions. He makes the passes. I love his 1-2 play. I was really high on him when we signed him. I'm still really high on him now. Kyle, consistency, his is off the charts. He's an incredible player. I love having him. Honestly, like he does not get enough love. The crowd really should be chanting his name at the end of the day because he is an absolute star for this team.
Solid picks.
I was going to say that only because now I feel like I have to get them on my chest. I feel like Lancaster and Corrales are two that like
yes, yeah.
Just when you look at like experience, you'd almost want them to be on that squad, right? Like I'm not saying that they are going to take the next step. I know they're both on the what we would call the back nine of their career, but to me, when you look at leadership, I think they have to be mentioned as well.
Absolutely, man. Those were two that I was like sitting there like, oh man, neither one of them got mentioned. Now I got to say it. Now I have to say it.
No,
so I'm glad
I
you
got
did.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, well,
sure.
it's one of those like, again, Jorge's 33. I mean, I'm 34. I know how it feels, like we're basically the same athletically. So, I know how it is, but there's a lot to be learned from experience, right? Like he's been in the championship level, he's been at the MLS level. So
yeah,
having those type of players around is very important to become
absolutely.
a pros pro.
Pros pro. There you have it. There are our picks, not swayed at all by feelings. So we got it. All right, we're gonna jump into our Super League talk, but Kyle has to depart. Unfortunately, he has to.
I'm gonna bounce.
Yes, he has to go choose more curtains for other rooms. Or yeah,
what do you guys think of like a
Kyle.
third, maybe like a third color? We got two. These very natural tones, like earthy. I'm thinking something.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll
Absolutely. I trust your design sense. I don't
Thank
have
you.
any, so I believe in you. So Kyle's gonna be back for the next episode. Don't worry, he's not gone forever. He's just gone for right now.
It's
not
not
like
goodbye.
he's running
it's
off
see you
into
later.
the
it's not
into
goodbye.
the ether. Yeah,
Better
see
to
you
have
later.
loved and lost than to never have loved at all for the last
It's
55
true.
minutes. Yeah.
As long as he's not going to a Loose City meetup. Yeah.
Whoa,
Exposed.
No.
Exposed.
I know one of your questions is going to be what surprised you most about the Super League match, and to me, it was the start time because I thought it was at 4:00. So I missed the match entirely. So you guys enjoy it. I cannot wait to get caught up later via listening to this podcast and watching some highlights. But that's on me. Hand up. That's on me. I'll watch the next one.
We own our stuff around here.
Exactly.
All right. Bye, Kyle. Everybody say bye, Kyle. Bye, Kyle.
Bye, Kyle.
Yeah.
All right, boys. Hopefully there's enough baldness on this podcast to keep it going.
We got it. We're still running at 100%.
All right. We're keeping it on lockdown. All right. See you guys.
Sweet.
Peace.
All right. So let's talk about some Super League stuff, Dylan.
Let's do it.
You got a chance to watch because you had the time right, just like I had the time right.
I was so dedicated. I listened in the car, and then I came, and when I got here, I watched it again. So
see, is it a coincidence that it started at 2:30 and 2/3 of this podcast knew the right time.
Wow. Whoa.
Whoa, the universe is tricky. Hey, okay, like we gotta just jump right into this because I've been so excited to talk about our Super League debut since I watched that match.
Me too,
We
man.
looked so impressive. There
Dude.
were all kinds of pundits that were saying that we were going to get thrashed, that our squad didn't have talent, that it was all people that had never really played at a high level. And I'm like, get out of here. Like, and I understand.
We
Go
said
for it.
screw you to those people.
We did. And I knew we would. And I think that it was kind of harsh to, jump the gun and saying something like that whenever this is a new league with new teams and you never know what's going to happen. And still, it's still very fresh, right? It's just one game, at best. Other teams have played two, and so far they've all been very close matches. There's not going to, be a ton of blowouts right out the gate, it appears. It seems like everything's kind of staying on the level. And our match was much the same. And even with it being a draw, it felt like we were going to get a win the whole
It
time.
did.
We
I
were
thought
the
so.
better team for easily 80% of that match.
Mhm.
And even that last 20, I wouldn't even say that we were being outclassed. I just think that Carolina finally rose to our level and was coming back with the same stuff. But looking at what we did, that's impressive. I'm
Man,
sorry, like it was so good.
man, I am a fan of this team. Like
Yeah,
I like the formation. I
yeah,
liked the lineup. I
yeah,
like the tactics that we were doing, like that we were employing on the field. I love the like one-touch passes to each
yeah.
other. It was very fluid, and it did not look like a team that had played their first game together. Like
As
there
you were,
was
like, naming that, like, I felt like I was the, Vince McMahon meme, like, the levels of excitement
yeah.
meme. That's where I was at. But you're right, man, and, there were moments where you could tell we were finding our groove, you know what I mean?
For
Like, there were
sure.
moments where it was like, "Ooh," like, yeah, that's definitely a first game thing to happen, but overall, like you just mentioned, it shows that they have been working together for 2 months, They
Yeah.
talked about that whenever we were at that event. A couple of players are like, man, the preseason was pretty early, but now we're grateful that it was because we got a chance to really get a jump start and get a feel for things. And it showed. It showed on the pitch. And that lineup, then that threw me, like seeing everybody that was put where they were put. Of course, doing these write ups, you see the positions players can play. But whenever you hear a coach being like, I signed these players for versatility, you're like, okay, is that just another talking point? No, not for Mike Dickey. Mike Dickey was like, guess what? You're going to see this person who's played striker at another place. They're going to play down here as more of like a 10. And then you're going to see this person that normally plays left back up in the midfield. He really was throwing something together that was unique and it worked. It wasn't
Yeah.
like it was just haphazard. It was clearly carefully planned. Like these players knew what they were doing and they knew the system that they needed to run to make things happen. And geez, just that first half alone, like Carolina could not get out of their own half.
No.
They couldn't buy their way out.
No, they
And
couldn't.
it was amazing to see that level of press from the whole team operating like they were. And I just gotta throw out some props because every player played
Please do.
phenomenally, but Maddie Parsons is a beast.
Oh my God, her
Maddie Parsons is a beast.
interceptions.
Just taking the ball away from people.
A
They were like, "Oh, I
machine.
have the ball," and she's like, "No, you don't. That's mine." And just the chances she was creating on top of it. I looked into her game, but I don't think I really truly understood that side of it and how
It's the
good she
Shaq
was at
meme.
that.
Sorry, I was not familiar with your game.
Yes, I know. I'm a living meme today, man.
Yeah.
But truly, dude, like she was, man, a force throughout the time that she was out on the field. But we could say a lot for a lot of other players that we had out there.
For sure. I mean, the players that we mentioned, the four in the the player of the match vote, obviously they need to be mentioned, right?
Yeah,
But I feel like I really want to give a shout out to Autumn Weeks, right? That was
hmm
the first person I wrote down because she wasn't mentioned on our the player of the match thing, but she was on our W League roster. She gets
yeah,
moved to the Super League roster, and she stepped up and she performed amazingly. I
yeah,
really, really I was really excited to see her step up and like prove that she deserved that spot on the field, and I really
yeah,
loved it. Shin also Like,
Mhm.
kind of like one of the players that I was like just not sure on. I don't want to say like
Mhm.
down on. I just was like, oh, I wonder if this is going to be like, a dark horse signing. I
Yeah.
think it might be. She was fantastic. Super
Yeah.
surprised about her. Loved what I saw from her as well.
Yeah, 100%, dude. And you talked about our W League players. All of them that played did so great. Like Haley Utley was
Oh
making some
yes.
ridiculous runs, and there were so many times I was like,
Oh
"Oh
my
my
God,
gosh,
when
she's
she
gonna
hit.
score!"
Oh my God, I thought she was going
Oh,
to score.
yes. Oh man, whenever it hit the post, it was inches, inches, and she kept getting up into those spaces and finding those opportunities, and it was beautiful. And you go back to seeing these players play for our W League team, but now they're playing at this whole new level, and you're like, oh man, this is great seeing them get this opportunity. I loved it. I loved what we did. Bridget Skiba, she was a wall. She was
Yeah,
taking
absolutely.
care of business. And whenever Carolina finally was able to get some shots, because for a long time they were struggling to get anywhere dangerous because of what we were doing. I just feel like it was a very cohesive team that was oozing with chemistry. And that's what you want in a team. You know what I mean? You want that chemistry, that idea that these players are familiar with each other, and are working together in a true sense, that they know, like, here's what we are going to do to make this happen, not just here's what I'm going to do. You come along for the ride. It and coaching, you mentioned it already. The coaching was great. We saw a lot of subs happen in this, like a ton of subs were taking place, but it was very intentional. And I really
Methodical.
liked the way we kind of like trickled them out. So that way,
Yes.
yeah, I've said this before, like for subs, in my mind, unless there's some dire situation where you need a drastic change all of a sudden for a new burst to change up the game, like you let one sub come in, you let everybody get settled. Then later you're like, okay, now let's bring out that next piece that we need to kind of swap. And that's exactly what Mike Dickey and his staff was doing. They were
Yeah.
like just feeding the subs out at a good pace to keep things fresh.
Yeah, because I feel like if you throw like three people out right away, you're messing with the vibe a lot. You're messing
Yeah.
with the chemistry. People are not up
Yeah.
to the game speed. You got to just throw one
Hmm.
or two people in. Let them catch up to the game. It
Yeah.
takes a bit. And yeah, I agree. Like everything was methodical. I'm a fan of Mike Dickey. Like this game made me
Hmm.
believe in this guy. Like
Yes.
I I really wish, like, I'm gonna make a crazy statement. I wish the men's team played the same way as the Super League team. Like I really liked that style way more than I like the style that the men play.
I will say, like, this was a super exciting football match to watch. And
Absolutely.
we still have several games to see if this is like kind of how things stay, especially as we come across new opponents. But I don't think anybody could say that it wasn't a match that was enjoyable and entertaining. And not just because we were winning for so much of it. It truly was. And getting a draw, I don't think anybody was down about that result, and it's not because people didn't have expectations for this team. I mean, surely there's a lot of people that didn't know what to expect, but I think it was more of a, we played really good football out there, and
We
I'll
did.
take a point off of that. That was good, and I got to compliment some more coaching, not just the subs, but like the fluid switches on the field. Once
Yeah.
again, we talk about coaches saying, "Oh, I brought this player in because they're versatile. I brought this player in because they're versatile." We saw whenever Carolina, John Morrissey, who does USL Tactics, if anybody's on Twitter, he knows what he's talking about. He covers a lot of championship. He dabbles with Super League. He mentioned this whenever I was tweeting out about the team and the performance. To take Shin and move her back into the left back position and then switch Jones up further upfield whenever Carolina was starting to get a little bit of momentum on that side. And then all of a sudden they lost that momentum with that switch. Those smart stuff. That was using versatile players as versatile players. And it paid off. It kept us on the front foot and it let us keep that momentum and keep them relatively out of the mix, right? Until late.
For sure. Sometimes I worry about like, coaches and players that, you try to fit square pegs in round holes, you try to play your style, your
Mhm.
formation and all.
Right.
But Mike Dickey is employing this like versatile strategy where everyone's a round hole and everyone's a round peg, right? Everyone can, overlap with each other and it makes sense. But it's also like it's not sloppy at the same time. It's
Mhm.
thought out. Okay, this person fits very well into this spot. So if we
Mhm.
need to, they'll move in that spot and vice versa. And
Right.
I really appreciate that.
Yeah. And we got to give some props to Shepard. So Sydney Shepard, she makes a start. She was, I don't want to say a late addition because she's been hanging around the team. It's not like she wasn't with the team. Like if you've gone to events with the Super League, you would have seen her before she was officially announced. In my mind, I was thinking like, well, maybe it'll be Trinity Watson. That's one of our starting center backs because she came up from the W League. And you wonder, are they trying to kind of carry that momentum from what was happening there? And we have some players that are out of the mix right now, like Elise Laramie, who can play center back. She can also play striker. She's still recovering from an ACL surgery. Natalie Higgins is injured. She just had to go undergo surgery on her ankle. I don't know when she'll be back or if it'll happen this season. Trinity Watson at the event the other night for the beer release, she was in a boot. It might just be precautionary. It might be nothing. I don't know. But I was kind of surprised to see Sydney out there starting, not because I don't think she's capable or a good player, but whenever you see a player just being announced and then boom, there they are, you're like, oh wow, okay, there she is. I thought she did a great job, even outside of the goal.
Yeah.
When we're looking at like the
Well,
votes, she
for
won
sure.
player of the match, which that'll probably be released about the time most people are listening to this. And a lot of people voted probably because of a goal. But I think people also need to go back and watch the job that she did in her role as a center back, and she did really great and deserved all the praise beyond that as well. Looking at this team, there wasn't a player that I looked at and was like, you know what, that's our weak link right there. It just didn't really come across that way. It felt like everybody was getting in the groove and everybody was contributing. And when we were switching out defenders, they were still doing their thing. Like even Kaylee Utley was coming back and playing defensively late in the match. When we were switching out our strikers or wingers, whatever we were switching out, there was still a flow and a method and drive behind everything that was done. And to go against a Carolina team that everybody was touting as being like the force or one of the forces besides like maybe like Tampa or Spokane that you really needed to watch out for. It felt good. It felt good to see this type of football being played and get this type of result, get our first point ever, our first goal ever. Those were historic, and now we can say that.
Now, I don't think that we're going to have the same success next match, right? Like, not that we won't draw or we won't win. I just mean, like, Carolina didn't have anything to go off of when playing
That's
us
fair.
this match. We were completely brand new to them. We got to watch tape on them. They got to see nothing about us. So they had to
Yeah.
adapt on the fly, right? So, now there's tape on us. We have a match. We can, people are going to be able to see what we like to do. It's up to Mike Dickey to adapt to that, throw
Hmm.
out something that the other teams aren't going to expect. I believe in him. I really liked his on the fly adjustments in this match. I think he is smart enough to do that, prior to the next match.
Yeah.
But like I said, let's calm down. Let's pump the brakes a little bit because this is like they didn't get to see anything on us. So we kind of have
Hmm.
an advantage on them in that respect. But still,
Yeah.
like it was awesome. The first half was like so fun. Like it was like one of the
Yeah.
most fun things I've seen in a while, like
Yeah.
we were just like playing around with them. It's like, really unfortunate that we didn't get any more goals in the first half, but man, it was a good time. I'm excited. I think I wasn't that excited, and then after that match, I was like, oh man, I'm in. I'm in. I'm locked in now.
Legit.
Yeah.
It's legit. By the way, Dylan's not your dad. You don't have to listen to him. Don't pump the brakes. Slam on the gas pedal.
Oh my
No, but
god.
you make a good point, man. You made a great point. And I do think that, you're not alone. I think a lot of people, those question marks were starting to be answered with this match. And there's plenty of more matches to go. And, you're right. We can't just jump the gun with one result. But I do think it made people feel good to see this type of excitement, and knowing that our next match is going to be at home, first ever match in our brand new stadium, and riding that same feeling into the stadium, it's going to be electric. I think that it's so cool that they're going to be opening the stadium for us. Watching our women's team go in and play their second match ever, first match at home. I just hope it's just as entertaining. I hope that it's a great time. I don't think it won't be. I just it's good vibes. It's good vibes from the style and just the kind of mentality that you can see from this team. So I hope everybody's got tickets for the 8th. We got to pack that place. I think I saw Clark Embry, I'm pretty sure, posted in one of the Facebook groups that I think there's something like 500 or 600 tickets left.
It went from like 600 something to 580.
Yeah. So we still have plenty of seats that we got to fill, and I hope that people bring people out with them, because, man, they deserve to have a packed stadium. Plenty of other teams had packed stadiums, sellouts their first game. I hope we can manage that too, because it's good. It's good. Tell everybody you know. Tell them they have to go. Tell them it's historic. It's the very first game ever at this stadium, first home match for our women's team, and tell them how good they play. Like it's just it feels good, But I'm ready. September 8th can't come soon enough for me for a variety of reasons. But I don't know. We'll see what happens from there. We also had one more draw this weekend, aside from our women's team and our USL1 team, our UPSL. I mentioned that at the beginning. They ended up getting a 0-0 draw with Southern Indiana FC, which, if you've been following our team for a while, you've got Diallo Irakoze and Josh Head that are on the team that we played against. And we had some of our USL1 guys featuring for us on our U20 side.
Kimball,
I know
Eric.
Yeah. Kimball and Eric were in there. Anthony Patty was in there as well.
Yep.
Man, and Eric, I was having to do normal life things while I had it on the TV. Unfortunately, I couldn't just sit and watch it intently like I did with the women's game, because by that point, my family was like, okay, now we need to actually have a life. And I'm like, okay, but this football is life, just so you're aware. But I did catch some key plays. Our keeper played out of his mind, which was cool. I did see where Eric Sejan Gonzalez had a ridiculous block. Dude, like, okay, so our keeper's out of the net. The ball's coming in. He's come sliding out of nowhere. They even had like a cool angle from behind the net catching it where he just saves the day and just clears it right out. So that was really neat to see. Kimball had some strong carries up the field. Anthony was delivering some choice free kicks. It was a good game despite the 0-0.
I'm glad you did not mention Eric's near own goal, because that was pretty bad.
Well, that one was one of those like bad luck situations, I feel.
Yeah.
Luckily, the keeper was more than ready for it.
On top of it.
Oh my gosh, I don't know how he like reacted as fast as he did. But yeah, Eric, he tried to block that shot and it just clipped his thigh just the wrong way and comes screaming at the goal. And like you can kind of see Eric be like, "Man, what the heck?"
Yeah.
Which I don't blame him, man, because that was just bad luck. Because
sure.
he gets in front of it and it just doesn't bounce straight off. Yeah, it comes off just the edge and keeps going, and it's like, what the heck? When's that ever happen? But another example of the goalkeeping in that match from Lexington Sporting Club, which is really cool. So if you're hungry for more soccer, there is more soccer out there, and you can support the U20 side, which a lot of those players, who knows, you might see them at the next stage. A lot of the players on the team are already at the next stage, but getting some extra minutes featuring for the U20 team, which is really cool because we don't always get to see some of those guys playing at the USL1 games. Sometimes they're in the 18, like Eric was in the 18 the other night, but we actually got to see him in action with the UPSL game, which I enjoyed. It was nice to see all of them doing their thing.
I love seeing Eric play.
Yes. Yeah.
Him,
Kimball and Anthony, they rock it out, man. I love seeing those young players and the things that they have to offer. It's so good. It's so good. You hope there's a chance waiting somewhere, hopefully with us.
Yeah.
But it was good. It was a fun weekend full of LSC soccer. Everybody got points. which you can't be mad at that. Points for every single team, every single level. So good vibes this weekend overall. We just need to continue those good vibes. We got a Chattanooga match next weekend. We got Jaeger Cup, big one too. Like we have to win. We have to win this one. We have to, and we really, really, really need Omaha to channel their hate for Madison to its fullest. Like I don't know if people that listen understand how much Omaha dislikes Madison. It's extreme. Like it's like loathing. So I hope that that pure unfiltered anger results in an amazing performance and they beat Madison by like 14 goals or something, and then we beat Chattanooga by 30 goals, and then we're assured a chance no matter what to advance out of the group stage. So it's a massive match. If you can get out, you got to get out because this one means a lot for a separate competition that's going on. It's a shot at hardware, and if we can get out of the group stage, it's not too far away at that point. It's within our reach, and it's doable. Plus, I really just want us to knock Madison out after the match. Like their fans, if you weren't there, their fans after the match were chanting last place at us, which we're not in last place.
Do you know why they said that?
No.
It's because of me.
Oh.
Because I said, "Hey Madison, see you next season." Oh wait. And they got mad. And they were like, "Oh, last place." And I said, "Fact check. We're not even in last place. And then you're not even in first place. So you don't have anything to say." So
yeah. They were salty about that. They were big time. So anyway, I want Omaha to do us a favor. So we're all Omaha fans this week, just so everybody knows. No matter how you feel about them any other time, we're all owl people. So I don't know.
Birds.
Post a picture of your favorite owl. I don't know.
Hedwig from Harry Potter.
Not a barn owl though. Barn owls are kind of creepy. Anyway. Post your favorite owl because we want them to win. Owls over flamingos all day, every day. And then we got to do our business. Horses over wolves, right? This is like a weird animal themed thing happening here. So go out and support the team, everybody. You know what it is. It's same time, same place that it is every weekend. Knock them out. When I say them, I mean the Mingos, and then do our thing in advance. Hopefully we can get Jaeger Cup to our name before we move on to the championship and leave all of our friends behind. Sad.
A nice little parting gift.
Yes, yeah. First ever Jaeger Cup promotion. That's what it is.
Ooh.
Honestly, that's the best one, right? We'd be the ones that we won the inaugural Jaeger Cup, and then that's how we move up. Let's do it. I'm all in on that. That is a vibe right there.
Tyler, I think we should do that.
Yes, I think we should as well. I concur. All right. I think that's about all we got for today. I don't think there's anything we haven't covered. It's a good episode. Thanks for hanging in with us and listening in. Please, please, please show up Saturday and support the guys so we can make it out of the Jaeger Cup. Do not forget to get your tickets for September 8th. You have to get your tickets for September 8th. Do it. Like there's all kinds of discounts. Like I know for Jessamine County schools, I heard that they're offering like the $10 tickets. I think KSR was offering like a deal for $10 tickets. If I remember correctly, there's probably a bunch of other organizations that are offering $10 tickets. So I don't know, check your email, check your spam box. I don't know, whatever. It's probably there. So if like price was an issue, it shouldn't be. Just get those. But come out and support. You're going to see some fun soccer. You're going to see some historic soccer. That stadium is nice. If you haven't seen it like in person, been up by it.
I've been in it.
Yes, he was there. He was right there at the edge. So come out, do your thing. And you know what it is. Come on, you greens.
Hell yes.